Hey folks, did you know that GitHub Actions is a complete tool suite for DevOps? And DevOps has been something which is evangelized in such a way that it needs to stay in every organization no matter what you do. Today, it's the need of the hour. And trust me, GitHub Actions is defining the way it is defining what DevOps means as well. I feel that Microsoft has two DevOps tool suites, but they're rocking the world in terms of DevOps. And the day that Microsoft bought GitHub, I think that's a win-win situation for the open source. Like GitHub became rich and a lot of things happened. So let me just share my screen. Let's just go on to the slides and let's just demystify what is it all about when we talk tech. So first of all, I would love to give an introduction in terms of DevOps, which is a purpose for an institution. Because lately I just realized this is what I was looking for in my engineering. And my engineering was so bad that I really realized, okay, everything is connected, everything is sorted, but what next? And I told no to this for a while. Then I was like, but my life is really good. So what next? And I had to find out that after learning all the skills somewhat, and I realized my consciousness is just juggling around with like what is required and what is not, and what should I be doing and what shouldn't I be doing. And I needed help, and DevOps came into the picture. DevOps is something which is huge. DevOps is defining the way in which an organization culture has been defined over a course of time. And lately, do have this in mind, because DevOps is not just tools. DevOps is not just an everything in an application. DevOps is not all about process or people. DevOps makes and breaks a culture and an institution, because that's the absolute definition for what DevOps has to be offered. And of course, I sometimes geek out about like DevOps this, DevOps that, and DevOps is a purpose of an institution which wants to bring DevOps culture. Thus, we have to be careful when we talk about it, because a lot of times when we juggle around with the principles of an institution, and when we are trying to mint money, yes, we need money. So we forget the fact that there's a purpose for an institution to grow. There's a purpose for an institution to be somewhat great. And now DevOps is a culture that says a story of an architecture, because that's the culture that we are defining. That's the culture that we're moving towards. And to me, all systems are prone to be a flaw one day. There's a reason for them to go absolute after some time, because hardware keep improving, software keep improving, the drivers keep improving, network has been defined through a software and the hardware aspects, and so on. So this is my final note of definition, that I would say this is one of the things that I came up with. But I would say like everybody needs to explore this world. Everybody needs to talk about like, okay, this is what we require and this is what we need and things like that. So, and more of it is in this docs. And if you just go here, click on this, there is an amazing set of books. Actually, I have some amazing set of resources there as well, but you can check out all the books that are being listed here. Continuous Delivery from Jez Humble, and David Farley has his own channel called as Continuous Delivery. Just go check it out. David Farley's channel is this. So David Farley, Continuous Delivery. And David Farley has an amazing channel. You guys have to check this out, because this is going to be the best thing to be ever witnessed by you lately. And over a course of time, I would say just go back to this book, start studying. The Visible Ops, it's a compilation of what has to be offered from an ITIL. If you are very lazy like me to read the 5 books of ITIL, don't worry, get back, read this Visible Ops. And if you want to be an amazing operations guy, trust me, these 3 books are must. Because to me, DevOps is a state-of-the-art culture that we are trying to inculcate in an organization. An organization needs to really architect and pioneer their ways towards like, what should be my operations look like? And if you think of operations, I think companies like Coca-Cola, Starbucks have really nailed the operations. But to me, tech world, I think every institution has a great operations and an organization culture that we can think about. An organization must adapt that is going to be defined with the core competency of the agility. Like they need to learn to adapt, because that's where the purpose of an institution comes into the picture. Like how easy can you adapt for the market? How easy can you adapt for a new customer? How easy can you really adapt for a new technology which is rolling inside the market and things like that? So end of the discussion. Don't worry about that. Because back then, early architecture was something like, I have to do everything. Like you need to define networking, you need to define the hardware resources, you need to define the software resources, you need to define everything compiled together. You will have an application at the end of the day. And now if you want to go through, I want to go, there was an ultimate destination that we look forward to, because back then when you think of people, they always thought about like, hey, we want to reach to that feature, but there was always that rollback mechanism which came back to them, because it's a heavy monolith which really came under the picture, and it was very difficult to manage such kind of an application. So what makes a practice, because SEC reports has that sort of a definition for it, because lately I've realized one thing, that if you don't have this kind of an habit, sorry for that, you're not fit enough for the DevSecOps world. And all the 10 providers, they have their SEC reports done. And if you look back at the SEC reports are like fabulous and fantastic towards like what should be our own destination of the security is. So remember that it's not a destination, it's a discovery which is happening, as what Ben Rock would say. So I'll show that in a future slides as well. So some institutions have marked the beginning of the DevOps culture, like Chef, Netflix, AWS, Facebook, Disney and odd stuff. Fannie Mae, pioneers of the DevSecOps, really ruled when the Apache Struts vulnerability came in. ThoughtWorks, data mesh is coming from Zamac. Google, IBM, Puppet, Knight Capital, whatnot. Puppet is an amazing institution, by the way. To me, the best institution of DevOps is Puppet, because Puppet has its own state of the DevOps report. And when I read that, I feel that there's a new culture that anybody can pioneer, and Puppet is one of those people in the history that I look back to when it comes to the DevOps world. And it's very addictive. By the way, it's very addictive. DevOps is so good that it's so addictive that everybody wants to do that. And a little bit about me. I'm a podcaster. I love talking to techies. I'm a bibliophile, so I'm a nerd. So I read a lot of white papers, well-architected framework, cloud adoption framework, this, that, documentation. Oh God, I read a lot of research papers as well. So if you want to check out, reach out to me again. So I'm also passionate about computer vision. So image data set is what I look forward to. Now exploring Azure Cloud, because I'm still exploring Azure Cloud. I know that people who are inside Azure don't know most of the features which is already still there, and also still discovering the best of me and preparing for my master's. And this was an humble attempt that I had, but this has been shut down. And now I want to train to build myself as the Gordon Ramsay of the cloud. So my ultimate definition is here. So it's always that. So let's just go back to some things which I really wanted to do. Like, how many of you are really turning back towards this sort of an application? Like, this was the first application which came in 1992. This marked the beginning of the web. As always, Scott Anselman says that, you need to learn to bet on web. 1992 marked the history for the web development. And how many of you remember this shade of gray which Amazon had? Because Amazon existed before I was born, but to the whole folks who are seeing this, how many of you know that this really existed? Like, this is the first website of Amazon, and Amazon really rocked the world. They were the first to pioneer their ways into the cloud computing, 2006, Feb, or some kind of a month. So let's just go and type it off. So when was, all right. AWS was launched in, I think, July 2002. Cloud computing came in March. Fine, that's cool. January, February, March. So yeah, I was very close to that. And Gene Kim, the guy who came up with the books called as the Phoenix Project and this Unicorn Project, is an amazing artifact. Like, you guys have to read that. And Martin Fowler, one of the best microservice person, he really pioneered the ways in which we have to think back at the way in which we are computing, because back then, this will give you a simple comparison of the cost, the effectivity, and the leverage that we used to get when we think about the VM and the containerized world. So if you think this as a virtual machine, this as a container. So virtual machines are costly, they are resource intensive, and there's no need for you to leverage that. And back then, when I look at some kind of an application like this, I feel that there was always a need for us to leverage all these technology that we have today, and we forgot to leverage that. And somehow containerization came into the picture. Containerization really existed before, but we still were not finding a ways in order to go to the container. So containers are very lightweight. Why? It's because of that. So there is a type 1 and a type 2 hypervisor that we can talk about today. Types of hypervisors, it's here. So you can check on that. So type 1 hypervisor is something which is using a no host OS, and it's just using the software which is defining the hardware today. And now there is a type 2 hypervisor, which is simple as your VM and things like that. But VMware has its amazing set of hypervisors. You can go and check that out as well. So this really marked the barrier for all the compute resources, like libraries and the binaries. Libraries and binaries still remain the same, but it was too heavy for a compute. So lift and shift never used to happen so easily, and seamless happened in your cloud. It's like container really helped it to have that lift and shift to effectively utilize the compute resources. And what was a curse in VM was a blessing in the form of a container. And I talked a lot about monolith, and this is how your monolith looks like. So there's an API call layer, user interface layer, business logic layer, and that one entire communication happens between the database. And this is very compute heavy and less efficient in terms of coding. It can destroy your entire infrastructure once you just break something. And this can happen only if you are lucky. If you are lucky. And I'm not joking, because a lot of times when I look back at the people who are behind the kind of an architecture who really worked on monoliths, like they say that, which was we all used to pray God, like, let it not be a 0-day vulnerability and things like that, because this is going to be an ultimate definition of what your luck was. Like, you can break some things, but if it doesn't break, you're lucky enough. And when I look back at them, I feel like they always used to say that I think I'm insanely lucky, because to one extent, they are insanely lucky because they got a chance to learn from the scratch. And we are in the world where serverless is leading the world. So microservices are nothing but a kind of an infrastructure which is always designed for one application at one time, and there is always a layer of abstraction which always comes up. So that layer of abstraction is the arrows which is there here, like how many times a microservice can communicate with another microservice, what's the probability of it, what's the plausibility of it going down, and not making sure that the entire application goes down at once. It's all that. So right now, this is what is happening. And right now, when you look back at that, evolution of this kind of an architecture really led to this kind of an application to be built. So databases got connected, and lately we realized that we need to evolve in the industry. And why I'm showing you this playlist on my channel, it's because John Willis is one of my favorite DevOps professionals. DevOps is not that complex, but we have intended to make it complex. And over a course of time, he has evangelized, I think, the right way of DevOps, because everybody needs to follow that. He's now in the DevSecOps world. DevSecOps is huge. DevSecOps is ruling the world. So I would say just skim through all the talks that is there. I think I even have Dr. Nichols. Dr. Nichols is an amazing. So let's just address the elephant in the room. So very simple, there is always a fact that comes into the picture. It's an entire DevOps tool suite, right? There is an entire set of architecture which is dedicated for an entire deployment side. It's a web, we have to bet on the web at the end of the day. And there is a set of releases which are defining, okay, this is what is required. And also there is always a packaging which has already happened here. And to me, I think there is also artifacts which I can look back at and I can say, hey, this is what is required. And this is one of the state-of-the-art DevOps thing that is happening to me. This is an ultimate definition for me when I think of DevOps. DevOps is huge. DevOps is not something that complex. I think we have misunderstood some of the facts that went behind when we were thinking about the DevOps world. I think GitHub has really ruled the world, really ruled the market, which is just considering that, let me just explain you everything from scratch. GitHub Actions is a state-of-the-art DevOps tool suite. That's from Microsoft itself. So they still have Azure DevOps, and that's an amazing SaaS application. Of course, this is also a SaaS application, but an amazing thing is it's Git compliant and it's a distributed version control. And you need not have to do any sort of a virtualization for your entire repository to go and sit in some sort of a network attached storage. You just need to do everything which is through Git, and everything has been versioned, taken care from your Git itself. So agenda is like, understand the magic of GitHub, the GitHub Actions, the GitHub products. By the way, GitHub has an amazing set of tool suites, products, marketplaces. You guys can go and check it out. CI/CD pipelines is what we will be looking forward to, and CD and the release management, because I'll show you how a release management is going to happen. Like, I'll show you how the low risk will stop the way in which the CD has to happen, and the vulnerabilities will be stopped and it will not deploy. And over a course of time, GitHub Actions is a complete tool suite that we are thinking about. So package management, build management, secret management, and things like that. So here we talk a complete set of DevOps tools which are making sure, and community-driven workflows are considered here. So basically GitHub is rich because it was bought by Microsoft. And now the key functionality of it is like, you can get to know, okay, there's a Linux OS, Mac OS, and Linux and Ubuntu containers are used for running the application. Like, you can really run a sort of an application which is completely, looks exactly like you are automating an entire build process. And you still, in the backend, you are still using the file system of the Linux, Mac OS, and the Linux and the Ubuntu. Linux with the Ubuntu containers, by the way. Like, you can use a good amount of set of computes which is already available from GitHub Actions. So if you think of that, so there's Windows build, Mac OS build, Linux build, iOS build, Android build. And this is not it. Destination is forever. It's going to be there. Like, if you can define it through some sort of an YAML file, it's going to help you. And it's a matrix build. Why matrix build? I'll show you why. Because this is one of a framework which somebody wrote at Supercharge.js, and he wrote some sort of an application on a Node.js, and now he's testing it on all the different versions of it and all the different NPM and Node.js packages, which is already being there for the world. And now he's just testing it out, building it out, and saying that, hey, this is what is required. And now, if you see that, the workflows in the form of a diagram, that's a magic to me, because to me, you can realize, okay, if there's a red star here, I can say a red star. So let me just go red, some sort of a red here, some sort of a red here, don't go to the next process and the things like that, that's an ultimate definition of DevOps. Like, it needs to stop. And that's an Andon card mechanism. We'll talk about it later. So streaming and searchable and linkable logs are built for the deployment. Like, that's a cherry on the pie, and it's a miracle that you get to know, okay, what is going wrong here and what is being right here. Like, okay, there's no set of computes available. What next? So what should I do next? My log does not judge. Like, it's not here for judging you. It's like, there's something going wrong. Just take this information, start working towards it. And log viewers are always there. We always had this kind of an ultimate visualization that we want to reach out back to the world. And it's encrypted. By the way, all your secrets that you really want when it comes to environment secrets, organization secrets, repository secrets will always be a secret. There are only two options for you right now. Like, you can either remove it or else you can either update it. So updating is not a problem, but removing can become a problem because you might be having a set of YAML files which is written, and now you are like, where can I really fit in my entire architecture? And that's not my problem. That should be your problem. It's not even GitHub's as well. So right now, this is where you start reaching out towards, and this is where you start reaching out and saying that, hey, my secrets are secrets and don't give to any person. And it's data encrypted, and nobody has an authority to see what's there as your secrets. And some secrets that we care are GitHub tokens, secrets.name, and that's the basically what, whenever you write something called as a secret, which is updated on the settings, I'll show you that as well. That will be in the form of that name here. So example, API, something which we are done. So it's like API key, 1 or 2, whatever it is. And CLI management is also available. Like, your CLI management will not say you the logs, which will give out the passwords there on the output logs as well. So it's actually a state-of-the-art governance and the policy embedded inside it. And there is always a limitations for that. So let's just do that. And also there is an API support, which is always given to you. So please keep that in mind. And GitHub tokens are always there. So these are some of the personal access tokens, which is always there from the GitHub. And you guys can really generate on your own and you can start working on it. So token from the GitHub. So organization secrets, repository secrets, environment secrets is something which we want to really keep in mind, because back then repositories used to have a lot of CI/CD credentials and nobody wanted that to be out. And I did the same thing in one of my Terraform repositories. I just had this kind of an thing. And to be very frank, my Amazon credentials, AWS was always taken care of. And it was like instant messaging which came in as soon as I resolved it. But to be very frank, it was an instant message when I really clicked on that commit button and it went public. Within a minute, I had this kind of a notification on my mail. And to be very frank, GitHub won't tell you what's going to be the secrets and things like that. So even if you really save it as an owner, you're not able to see it again. So GitHub has that for this hackers who really want to jump into your system. So GitHub really doesn't say all your secrets. GitHub is born for that. GitHub has a sort of an ultimate governance and the policy which is embedded inside their entire application. Of course, you can integrate with some other sources like what I've done here for the white source. And it's saying me, okay, this is what the vulnerability should look like and things like that. And everything is taken care from the GitHub and you really need not have to worry about it. And easy to write pipelines and easy to share and more secure. So when it's secrets have been taken care and nothing has been given out to you according to you, then you have the right to share it. You have the right to have that governance. You have the right to have that security in your hand. So we can automate the workflows. Of course, yes, we can automate the workflows. We can automate the ways in which we are working towards. And it's a simple thing. You have a set of events, triggers will be formed, workflows will be generated, use of the same workflows are converted into actions. And to be very frank, it's all code. At the end of the day, what do you expect is a chocolate here, chocolate here, chocolate here. But in an entire production system, anything can break. And events, workflows, actions is always there. And to me, that's a sort of an definition about how production system can teach you chaos, and DevOps is learned through chaos itself. It's a form of a lava that comes and sets you and it burns out everything. Like sometimes, even the simple things start burning your entire infrastructure. And that is what that lava, and it can shift anywhere. It can shift when the events happen, it can shift when the workflows happen, it shift when the actions happen as well. So it's always there. That definition will always be according to you, and that will always be a log here. So to me, that's a sort of a hand-on card mechanism. When you see back at the Toyota production system does the same thing. It's like everybody knows what should be my hand-on card, and everybody needs to instantly prepare for the chaos that they might be facing. And that is an ultimate goal of an hand-on card, which ruled the Toyota production system. Every 3 seconds, there used to be one car which used to be produced from Toyota, thanks to a friend called as Sumant, who really gave me this information. And now, when we think of Toyota production system, that's the definition that we are moving towards. And that's where AI and ML that we are building should also move towards. And in the real world, it's not as good as this. Like, this is a sort of a physical system. I think if I can give an example of Cheryl Jones I can give an example of a person called Cheryl Jones from Toyota. Where is Cheryl Jones? I think I did lose that. All right. So let me just go to Google. Toyota. No, Cheryl Jones, like, she's one of her masterpieces in terms of like what DevOps culture means to us. Like, I would say, like, you guys have to just go back and listen to this entire article. Like, if you can listen to that, that will be perfect. You can still go and make sure that this happens. You can copy it and paste it down any of the text files, and you can start working towards, like, read it. That would be an awesome move from your side. So she's one of the people who saw Toyota production system very keenly, and that production line, which really had that definition. So in the real world, in the software world, it's always the developer, testing, and the staging environment that we're defining here. And there is always the development deployed with a review from the DevOps engineer. There's always that review which comes in, hey, there was a CVE which was always being detected, and say, hey, this is what we are doing. So what I said about the hand-on code mechanism, everything will be taken care into the picture. So it's an ultimate destination that we are looking forward to, and we are now changing it. So let's just go back and see what really happens when we push and pull a trigger. So events are the triggered events. So GitHub triggered events are what is considered here, because GitHub has a set of rules and a set of governance policies, which is already being generated. So many cron jobs, push, pull, branches, everything is taken care into the picture. And to be very frank, there is also a manually triggered event. There's workflow dispatch and a repository dispatch that we are talking about. And workflows is nothing but pipelines which just take care of the colloquial commands, which we used to write a long set of Linux commands, but now workflows are being taken care by your simple scripts that are already being generated. And it's still a YAML script that we are taking care into consideration, which is written in this repository that we are considering. And to be very frank, this will be the file system for a GitHub repository that we'll be considering. And over a course of time, this is what is being created. And Linux container, Linux VMs are being used. And to be very frank, destination is never it. It's always the discovery. Ben Rockwood. So actions are the set of code which is reusable. Referring to the workflows is always considered. We can author our custom actions, storing shared actions. We can also share actions from the GitHub Marketplace. To be very frank, there is always a virtual environment for a JavaScript action. For the container actions, it's all Linux builds. To be very frank with you, I'll share you one of the facts here. I'll be moving forward here for a while because I need that. I tried doing that. It didn't happen on a Windows. So you have to use Linux. So Linux builds are the must. So it's all that. So JavaScript builds, anything can happen for Node.js packages, JavaScript packages. I think even for your Python packages, try doing it with Linux. because that's the best option. You can go anything that compiles with JavaScript. Yes, you can do that. And any languages, no worries, because containers are just packages, which is just having their own manifest files. What is a manifest file? Let's just go back here. So a manifest file is a Docker file that I'm talking here. And this is a state-of-the-art kind of an approach that you can give. You can put in any amount of Linux, any vulnerabilities will be taken care into consideration. And also, I'm using NGINX, and it has its own file system. And I've exposed this port, and I'm making sure that this happens. And what do you want more? This is the ultimate definition of a manifest files here. So right now, this Martin Fowler's continuous delivery is the best talk that you can go through. Please go through, just listen to this talk and you will be fab, like what is happening in the DevOps world. And GitHub has an amazing marketplace. You can get to know all these kinds of an application that you can build today. Like there are different categories for API management, chat ops taken care, code quality, CI testing, CD for all of it. So code reviews can also happen for some languages like JavaScript, Python. PyTest modules can also be written and it can be automated. Continuous integration can be taken care, like how I showed you about the artifacts earlier, it's always there. So dependency management is taken care in a huge fashion. And deployments are much more easy. IDEs are really available. Like Git pod, what I showed you in terms of this, I think I can show you in terms of that development process that we are talking about. So let's just go here. So right now you have an entire URL here, which is .com, and I just changed it as .dev here. And that .dev is going to give me an entire repository that I'm talking here from here to here will be as one complete file system. Like this will be on your vscode.dev. So I can show you that. vscode.dev. So this is an online IDE, which you don't have to worry about. You can just pull in that, open a remote repository, or else you can really go on and clone some of it from any of it, or else you can really go back and open a local folder. Everything will be sorted. Everything will be sorted for you. And to me, this is a kind of a state of the art, but to me, this is what I really call is the magic of it. So at the end of the day, you need to learn to use your brain. Can't help it. Use your brain and start working towards it. And actions can be of multiple types. So there are two types of it. There is chainable actions. There is a deployable actions, which is always taken care into consideration. So chainable is like one is dependent on the other. Monolith is like one complete action does all the job. And probably both of them have their own application in the world of DevOps. Let's see that. Destination definition, there is always this build functionality and whatnot. So destination setup done, everything is sorted here. And right now, when you look at sort of an application, you can guess what is happening here. Version definition, build definition, Maven clean installed, all these are taken care. And now it depends on what is happening. And now there is a deployable function, which is always there. So if you think of an application, which I'm saying, let me say this. I think this has its own Maven CI. I think this is for the artifacts. I think remote spring web app. Yep. This has some set of compute, which really can help you understand, okay, this is what we require in our entire process. And of course, there is still a sort of a definition, which is always being there. So deploy and build happened. And I don't think that is really available to you right now. We are currently unable to download this log. Please try again later. So it's an old one, and to be very frank, I've removed that entire repository, so that log is not available to you. So yes, so this is what I called an ultimate chainable actions that we are considering, and this is what I am taking care about. So right now, I think I need to change this. I think this will be sorting all my things. So right now, this is what I call a magic of version control, but to me, it's an ultimate definition that I'm going towards, and measure and validate has to be in the production feedback loop as well. And development logs and deployment logs are always there. Status of deployment, complete history of the deployment, status of multiple or a single deployment with environments and the targets considered are analyzed here. So let's pump up with some skill folks so that like you get to know what is happening. And to be very frank, there is always an action step debug, action runner debug, and so on. So, and another fact is that you can run your GitHub actions locally as well. If you have an amazing compute which can build like this, probably this is going to be the best definition here. And over a course of time, this is what that repository looks like. And if you choose a target which is already there in GHCR, GitHub Action Container Registry, or the repository GHR, GitHub repositories, this is what you get. So there is a support for Docker, Maven packages, Nugget packages from .NET or C# developers, Ruby Gems packages, NPM Node.js packages, and the containers are really available to you here as well. So GHCR is always there. Docker support is always available. So let's just see what it shows in the repository. So whatever I told here as in packages is all available to you. So if you can look at that, like this is what I was talking about. This is an ultimate set of goal that we really want to reach to. And to me, it's a container registry, GHCR, and it's a Docker repository, which is going here. And the new package is always there. So the target was already being covered out there long back. I think what I can do is I can click on it and I can show you how we can download this as well. So it's still the same old command. It's still the same old way in referring to the Docker files. Sorry if you are thinking about an entire Docker thing. I'll do it next time for sure. Oh, sorry for that. I think I'm not running the Docker, but to be very frank, you can pull this repository, you can start working. So let's just do that. So Docker, where are you, Docker? Desktop is running, and I think Docker is not running here. So if you can see that, Docker is not running. There's no Docker here. There's a white space. That will be running right now. And I think Docker will come up. And let me just keep myself copied. I think I can just do an upper arrow and that works for me. And over a course of time, Docker engine is starting. You can realize how easy it is. So I can log in as well. I can start working towards like, hey, this is what my application should look like. And you can see how many images were already there and things like that. I think containers, oh, it started running. So let's see whether it gets pulled. So yes, error response from the daemon, Docker, duplication. Okay, no auth credentials. Oh, okay. Authorization credentials. So you can start working towards that. So let me just do that as well. So hurry and something. So let's sign in. If you don't have a Docker ID yet, you can create one in the Docker Hub. And sorry, I need to sign in. So you can see that, you know, there is always this one way and you can create a repository or else do whatever you want. But I can say that I can go to the public view. I can get this. So yes. Oh, since it was always there, since this is a GHCR repository, it requires some sort of a login, but to me, it doesn't require that. So don't worry about that. So that's perfect. So it downloaded. So it was edited 2 hours ago. Yes, that's perfect. And I think that's fine, man. You can really start working. So now it really came up here. And now you can start running it, run it. And you can see what's happening inside your repository. So let's just do ls. Got it. This is the best form of it. It's running in an IT and you can do a lot of exec commands and things like that. So if you want to have a complete introduction of Docker, and I think I have a repository for that, you guys can go check it out. It's got as a Docker tutorial file, so you guys can go check back at this repository. And this to me is a state-of-the-art DevOps. If you want to see how does an credential look like, I can show you that as well. So meanwhile, I can show you one of my images that I do on Azure Sketches. I do a lot of Azure Sketches, by the way. You guys can go and check out. All right, there's some set of messages which have already come. So yeah, Azure is an open system for an engineering system. The same image is being taken out here. And what you can do is, there is that definition that I gave here, like everything is connected and everything is sorted and everything B2B, B2C apps, every platform gets the target, and the Swagger REST API is always there. And you can think about it. In a meanwhile, when you think of all the targets and stuff, let me just show you one more thing. So there is events, workflows, scanners, builds, GHCR, how to leverage the builds and more. That will be going through in that same repository, and also we'll be also thinking of how the work versioning, documentation, test coverages, maintaining software metadata, sudo commands are also being taken care of consideration. So don't worry about that. So back then when I showed you how the Linux and the Windows host machines was not being available and things like that, container builds don't have that. So container builds have that Linux default one. So you guys can go check it out. And the slides will be available, and all the course materials that is required for you is out there. So go check it out in the slides here. So yes. So let me just show how does a GHCR looks like. So in a GHCR, there's always a cron job, which is always scheduled for something around this kind of a number. And now there's always a tag, which is always there. So on push of a tag, there's always there. And this to me is an ultimate set of governance that is coming to me into the picture. Like I can schedule it. I can say, okay, this branch, if it gets a push with a tag, do this. And if there's a pull request, just do the CI and give me that. And that to me is an ultimate definition of it. And this image will be in the GHCR. I think I can show you that. So it's here. GitHub action, container repository. So that came in here. So to be very frank, I didn't do any magic here. I went to the marketplace. I said Docker. I set up buildx, build, all these things. I just made a leverage out of it. And to be very frank, it's much more easier than doing everything as a Linux command here. And you can orchestrate it. You can really leverage all the resources. And you can see that how I've been working towards and how the name and the pull request and everything has come into the picture. And this is it, folks. This is the best way to do it. And I can show you one more thing, because now you have a set of code which is also being scanned here. So I can show you how the actions were run, how the actions were being taken care. So let me just choose that. So updating to the Docker image. So now there's a new ACR job. So there was a scan which happened. Just look at that. The vulnerabilities which were high were being considered. And now when you think of all these, so there are run IDs, and you can just go check it out here. So you get to know all different sort of a scan, all different sort of vulnerabilities that is taken care of, and how much is fatal, how much is there. And these are the CVEs. I'm talking here as common vulnerability exposures. You can type in this entire thing by saying, okay, CV, CIS, and this comes into your picture, and this will say everything about that entire repository that you're taking care. And this is the second scan that happened. And look at that. There's no difference because both of them have the same kind of a container image built. And now let me just show you one more magic of that. So it's main.yaml, right? It's main.yaml. And I say instead of low, and a simple trick, if you have some sort of an very low kind of a builds, I think don't waste your time in checking out all the things. There is an edit option here. So this to me is an edit option that I would consider building myself again. So it's easy for you. So if you think of that, there's always that one need. And this is the edit. There's always this versioning thing, this edit thing. Just click on that. Click on it. You will go to an edit, and I write low here. Instead of low, just see how the builds will be affected here. Man, this to me is the state of the art DevOps being orchestrated and architected. So you will see that there will be one red dot instead of this amazing green dot. There will be a red dot here on any of these. Like it can happen on any of it, but let's see. It will happen to one. So I think it's all Linux build, so it will take less time. And you can deploy it to different targets. So by the time it goes back and looks at everything that we're talking about, so target 2 was my different definition. So it still has my own username, password, everything, but now it's going for the second target. And now you can think of a Docker Hub, which is the first target. And I think I can show you my Docker Hub as well, which was Narayana Hari. So switch to this tab. I think I can go here. And you can see that, there is always that update which happened. And I can show you one more Azure portal. Thanks to Will C for that. Will C really helped me get this subscription today, or else without her, this demo of ACR might have not happened. And I'll show you how to maintain the secrets. I think action build has happened. See, I told you there is one thing. And see, now when I said the severities were low, and it first of all scanned all the low severities in the Ubuntu latest image, which was being used, and it stopped the entire production system. And this to me is an entire Andon mechanism that I can trust. And you can go back to this entire build that has happened here, and you guys can check out what has really happened here for your entire repository. So now there was an my app thing which was coming up. I can show you that as well. So it's one.main, I think so. Let's see that. Yes, it's my app. And it's now as this kind of an ash build. I think if you can click on the latest one, you get to know, okay, this is what happened, recent builds. Perfect. This to me is an ultimate goal of what DevOps is all about. And I think it's one main. I think it's pushed. Yep. Yep, it's which was Docker image or something. Yes, it's here. Yes, Docker image. The recent build happened. Perfect. So this is the state of the art DevOps that you're talking about. And this is an ultimate automation that we are looking forward to. And lately, you can also go back and change the secrets as well. I can show you how. So you have an access key. And let's just go, and before I had regenerated this, and now I'm regenerating. And you can rotate this as well. You need not have to have the same old definition of the password. I can rotate this over a course of time, but I'll not do it because now I want to go on with this demo. And so GitHub Actions is here. Let me just go to the settings, secrets, boom. password, registry, username, registry, password. I'm going to update it with a new value. See, I didn't get a chance to view it once again, but I got a chance to really see what was that definition that was there, and everything was sorted. And this trigger didn't happen because I just changed the repository secret. But now let me just do this. As always, edit this file. I do this. Let me just do this. And that entire repository changes, and that's where you are now going back towards like, hey, this is what my repository should look like. And I think there is no hiccup here. If not, let it be. Nobody cares about that, because now I just have a sort of a definition that I know that I will be building it. So I think I can show you one more. I think there is a build which is happening for your, what you can say, this entire page. This is automated, by the way. I didn't do anything. It's very simple. Even if you want to go back and do that, it's very simple. Go to the pages, just set the branches to main, testing, or anything that will be sorted, and choose the team if you want to, or else you don't have to choose. It's a root user. So now you are enforcing HTTPS. And if you click on this, you'll go back to that entire repository. And now I have changed the builds. I have changed the ways in which the HTTPS looks like, but it's not on the Docker image. This to me is like, okay, perfect definition for whatever I really require. And you can see that now that the critical builds happen. So there was no hiccups when it comes to the Docker builds that was being happening here. But to me, this really changed. And you can see that my latest update happened right now. And yes, this is 113 here right now. So to me, this is 113. And now it's showing me 112. And it's a minutes of changes that is going on and so on. So everything is sorted. So see here, like, you need not have to do much here. You just need to go back and see the definition of it. So somebody asked me, like, how do you get this white source and things like that? So you just have to go to the white source, accept all their policies. And now you, as soon as you create it and you check box on this, that marketplace apps access to this repository is always given. And I can show you one more integration that I had. It's on an app called a Snyk, SNYK. So you can go to this entire repository and you can look at like what is happening. And the demo I have has an PR which is being raised. And now you see what's happening here. So it's a private repository. I've not done anything. And now if you see the PRs which are being raised, it's a recent rise which happened because it saw that this image that I have here has some sort of a vulnerability. It's critical, high and high. So what to do? And now it's now being automated. It's now being automated for the builds. It's now being automated for all the production environment. And these are some quality checks that I really wanted to do, and that didn't happen because I wantedly broke it. And contributors, Snykebot and me. So Snyk helped me have those PRs. And to me, this is SaaS, DAST, HIAST, whatever you think, this to me is ultimate DevSecOps for the open source world. And thanks to Snyk for giving it, copy the invitation link. You can just go on and just get that. Anybody can get inside this kind of a repository, and pending tasks, everything will be sent to them, and everybody will get to know, okay, this is what is happening. And Docker file now has that sort of an criticality build and everything. Open fix PR. You can now open that fix PR, and you can go there, demo app, Docker files, and I think so that PR will always be raised. Yes, I think that will be raised right now. Yep, it came up. So it already raised me an issue and a PR which was already being raised. And that's to me is a perfect thing because it was already been there and it's already been closed. So what and all did I do, the versioning, the tools, and all the versions that I really wanted to work towards. And everything is here for you. You really need not have to worry about like what really happened to my repository, and everything is taken care. So I think that to me was a state of the art DevOps. And if you want to really understand what is the DevSecOps and everything all about, there's an HackerOne program which is happening for the GitHub. You can join that. And GitLab is really leveraging the way in which open source world has to behave. I think do check it out. I think thank you so much, folks. Thank you so much for being part of this GitHub Actions thing. And I think this is part of the 48-hour hustle that I was doing, and it's successful. One part is successful, and I still have a lot of resources to give to the world in the 48 hours. Let's see what I can do.